All right. So my name's Trevor Phillips. I worked with Noah, Daniel, Eric, and Takaru, and we're going to be talking to you about the rise and fall of WeWork. So some background about WeWork is an American commercial real estate company that provides flexible shared workspaces for technology startups and services for other enterprises. WeWork designs and builds physical and virtual shared spaces and office services for entrepreneurs and companies. Originally, WeWork's main goals, as it was developing into a legitimate company, were finding and creating relationships through renting out business spaces. They wanted to offer low interest rates with long-term contracts to allow companies like startups and small businesses the opportunity to grow in a business space without having to spend a significant amount of money on a workspace. WeWork was aiming to create a blue ocean strategy. The blue ocean strategy eliminates all competition from the industry by expanding barriers of entry to the point it's plausible for any potential company to enter the industry. WeWork would arbitrage its rental properties for their landlords, which leads to a very unsuccessful business model in the long run, because arbitrage in general is a gamble and is not always available. The whole ideals and plans of the company were built on buzzwords and unattainable goals. But if their business model can be preserved, they may have a very valuable company.
Hello, everyone. Now I'm going to talk about the journey of the WeWork. WeWork started after the Great Recession in 2009, and WeWork started in 2010 in New York City. It was both Newman and Mackley recognized the recession had created a commercial opportunity for them and gave them the business model to start the WeWork. The main reason was the low-cost real estate. There was a tremendous amount of vacant real estate left abandoned in many cities across the countries, whereby companies they had not survived the recession. Newman and Miguel recognized the economic developments. They would acquire and small businesses to adapt and to pay the need the office spaces. As if it was also called the unicorn because it was the newly startup that created millions of dollars and was listed in IPO. And one of the top, Joe Scribber, invested in the WeWork and what made the possible Newman to create that IPO. Thank you.
All right, so Adam Newman, the founder and now ex-CEO of WeWork, moved to New York City at the age of 22 after serving as an officer in the Israeli Navy. In New York City, he enrolled at the Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College. And after a number of failed businesses, Newman finally saw some entrepreneurial success with his company Green Desk, which was a workspace sharing business very similar to what WeWork would become. In 2009, Newman sold all of his shares of Green Desk and used the money to launch WeWork. As a leader, it doesn't get much more eccentric than Adam Newman. His insane charisma was a massive reason behind WeWork's rise, and it allowed him to portray himself as a tech visionary, captivating both employees and investors. However, unlike Steve Jobs or Bill Gates, Newman had a propensity towards ridiculous antics. This included screaming and blasting loud music in work environments, spraying investors with fire extinguishers, throwing extravagant and over-the-top parties, and even smoking marijuana and playing video games with other executives in company offices. All of this together caused many to refer to him as the partier in chief. I will now pass it off to Eric, who will talk about the failures and downfall of WeWork.
WeWork's spectacular collapse came just as swiftly as its historical rise had been. The company's failure was the result of poor corporate culture established by the eccentric CEO, Adam Newman, like Daniel said. This is the same man who once told interviewers that he plans to become the world's first trillionaire and to live forever. Newman's bizarre behavior extended into the office space of WeWork and had negative effects on employee morale. His behavior created a culture of unease and has been made clear that Newman was an unorthodox CEO and had a questionable management style. Most of all, though, WeWork's downfall was the result of greed. Adam Newman and his wife, Rebecca, enjoyed a life of luxury on the dime of WeWork. They had 7 homes, support staff that followed them everywhere, and private jets. This even included hairstylists that would follow Adam Newman all around to where he would go for public appearances, which shows how eccentric and full of himself he was. Another example of this was the infamous and expensive company retreat that took place in 2018. After receiving a $1 billion cash infusion from SoftBank, Newman flew 8,000 of his employees to a campground in England for a retreat. Singer Lord performed and New Age guru Deepak Chopra led a meditation. All expenses were paid for by the company, including food, travel, and all the activities that I talked about. The cost of the trip must have been somewhere in the millions. WeWork's headquarters also reflected Newman's obsession with flaunting his wealth. The newly designed headquarters building had all the bells and whistles, including new furniture and an inclusive coffee bar, and also an inclusive real bar where employees could go have as much to drink as they wanted on the job. Basically, the bottom line is that WeWork spending was not sustainable for a company that had not yet turned a profit and was driven by greed. When WeWork's disclosures revealed that Newman charged the company $5.9 million for the trademark on the commercial use of the word "we," the CEO was exposed and his act was up. In November of 2019, WeWork laid off 2,400 employees, which was almost 20% of their global workforce. And in September, the company announced changes to the company governance and picked a new board of directors while ousting the company's CEO. Finally, SoftBank acquired WeWork, and that's where we will go from here.
Yeah, so where is WeWork today? So surprisingly, WeWork is continuing to pursue their goals to, quote, create a global workplace provider committed to delivering flexible solutions for inspiring, safety-focused spaces and unmatched community experiences. So they're still pursuing these goals, but after their great crash, they had to completely restructure and have made a couple of key moves. So the first was that they had to accept their identity as a real estate company. So this was one of the main reasons for their initial collapse, was that they marketed themselves as a tech company and expected that kind of exponential amount of growth, while having to still manage the slower moving real estate industry. They also, for a similar reason, hired a new CEO, Sandeep Mathrani, who has seasoned real estate experience. The next key thing they're doing today is they're scaling down a lot of their operations as well as their visions. And their current strategy is to target the new rise of remote work to create those kind of flexible office leasings that they hope will be the future of workspaces. For the company's previous CEO, Adam Newman, he has stepped out of the WeWork spotlight and is currently living with his wife and children in the Hamptons. However, this may not be the last time we see of him, as he's been reported to be investing in some small real estate companies just recently.
2019 was the biggest turning point for the company. Although WeWork was ready to do the IPO when the company marked at the $47 billion valuation in August 2019, it announced to postpone its IPO until the end of 2019, and Newman resigned his position as the CEO in the same year. However, it was an incident that was waiting to happen. Even though there were pros and cons, it is true that the business model itself was highly valued, as evidenced by the fact that Son Masayoshi, the CEO of SoftBank, invested in WeWork about a total of $10 billion. The thing that was viewed as a problematic factor was Newman's dogmatical management. Based on what we learned in this class, we could view his personal type as a pusher, a very intense pusher. The primary reason why we think so is that he had a sort of idea of indoctrinating his employees with his own sense and belief. His company culture, office environment, and both soaked party gave a huge negative impact on the potential investors. In addition, Mr. Son says that the fact that Newman always ignored what Mr. Son gave him as a business advice dramatically cut the credibility that the investors had over Newman. One of the lessons we've learned from this incident is that in modern society, it will be significant to create a durable and flexible organization that can adapt to the VUCA world. Newman had created several startups prior to the launch of WeWork and overcame the VUCA impact, as evidenced by the fact he succeeded to create one of the valuable business ones. However, in this recent VUCA society, the management would require not only a solid vision toward the future, but also a transparent disclosure of credible information for stakeholders. In conclusion, to conduct a sustainable and valuable business, especially in modern society, it will be significantly important not only to have the valuable business itself, but also to focus on establishing a strong organization that can endure the VUCA impact as a company. Thank you for listening to us, and that is all.